All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Ecstatic Business Show. We have taken a couple weeks off for the holidays, and I am sliding back into the driver's seat with flu, strep, ear infection, and lockjaw. So it is quite the time for me to be hosting the event. I'm like, well, this is just real and normal, and we are going to be in it together. And I couldn't miss today because it was my absolute one of my favoriteest people in the whole wide world, Julie Reisler. She has done so many things that I want you to go look her up. Podcast name is You. Remind me, darling. What is it?
The U
You.
S U. Got it. Yeah.
She has interviewed some of the most incredible game changers on the planet on her show. And the reason I love her is that I went through her life designer certification course to become a life coach myself. And it was so powerful, like changed how I view the world, how I hold conversations, the toolkit that I use to parent my children, to negotiate my marriage, to interact with my clients. It just really gave me so much freedom. And maybe we'll talk today about the biggest epiphany that you personally coached me through on that, because it literally changed my life. But for first one, I want to introduce you and have you start telling your story. Because as I shared, we love to go deep. We love to get raw. We like to talk about the times when everything was not peaches and cream and roses and rainbows. And
Mm.
how do we survive the valleys of death so that we can emerge victorious on the other side? So yeah, my darling, do you mind kicking us off and just telling us more about you?
Absolutely. I'm like buzzing. I'm so excited to be here with you and honored. And, I was thinking about this just as you were saying, kind of those darker times. There've been way more than just two, obviously, but there are two in my mind that really, that kind of cracked open my who I am today, and these were not easy experiences for me. I think the first most important one, and it's so like baked in my memory. I'll give like a really quick background because it might not make sense if I just explain what was happening. Long story short, I grew up in the East Coast outside of Boston. If you know anything about that area, it is in like the area of Harvard, MIT. Like intellectualism is
Mhm.
really valued. I think like from an early standpoint, not even from my parents, but that environment felt like not good enough, not smart enough, all of those kinds of not
Oh,
enough.
yeah.
Being in class, being in really high achieving situations where I didn't know this about me. I'm really empathic. I have a lot of the emotional intelligence. I'm intelligent, absolutely. It just comes harder for me, and I
Mhm.
have to work hard. And I had to work. I always had this. Okay, I have to work really hard. And I think just in that competitive, highly intellectual environment, I also felt like I think of myself as a late bloomer. I really struggled
Mhm.
junior high and high school with like dating and just feeling like I'm always the friend, but I'm not being asked out. And for me, what helped to deal with those feelings and feeling the feelings, my dad is a Vietnam veteran he
Mm.
had diagnosed PTSD, major financial issues. I grew up in a very wealthy area with a parent who was like, I did never knew if he had a job or not, or
Mm.
a business. And then my mom was a music teacher, and frankly, my grandmother kind of kept us afloat. So
Mm.
it felt very unsettling and ungrounding.
Mhm.
And what grounded me was food and sugar.
Mm.
So I really struggled with addiction, and it looks different than maybe with alcohol. Instead of drinking, I mean, I was just, sneaking and eating and stealing
Mm.
from people, from CVS every now and then, my
Mm.
house, like just that was my way of feeling grounded. And
Mm.
I would say the biggest, if you put a tagline, I just was in this place of self-loathing and abandonment.
Mm.
I am highly intuitive. We all have intuition, and I just pushed it down. I did not want to deal with it. I did not know how to
Mhm.
sit with feelings. So fast forward, I went to college. A lot of that started to shift. I found more of myself, but I think, still struggled with people pleasing and
Mhm.
really that outer, like I've got to do well and I want people to really like me. I'm just generally love harmony and harmonious situations. And I ended up dating someone who's a really good person. We got married young, really young, in our
Mhm.
early 20s. And I remember this. I was in my mid 20s. I'm in a job that I liked, I didn't love, and it had a lot to do with it was a nonprofit. We always had a lot of food around. And I just remember I couldn't put my finger on it, but I was driving home. I had a huge bag of M&Ms. My hand was in the M&Ms. I like could not stop. Caitlin, I could
Mm.
not stop eating handfuls. Like I'm talking, this is a Costco like 6-pound bag when they used to have those. Like I was so sick. And I remember just thinking like, I don't want to live. I don't want to do this.
Mm.
I can't do this. I,
Mhm.
on the outside, this is what's so effed up. It looked really fine, great. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I smile a lot.
Those are always the most dangerous times when
Yeah,
you've
like
got this
everything's fine.
dome of perfection. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm fine. And, I started to see it was a woman who was a dear friend of my husband's family, who's a therapist, and I was painting in her house and redesigning it. I was like, oh, I'll do something creative. And as we're talking, she's like, it sounds like I would talk to her. And she's like, sounds like you actually have an addiction. Like this is not just
Mm.
you're overeating and binging in secret. Like there's something more going on. And she
Mhm.
recommended a 12-step program. And I
Mhm.
grew up with a mom in one, and I was like, oh God, no, I don't want to do that. I just also for food.
Yeah.
So the pivotal moment was driving, it was this May night, like early evening in DC. And I literally, my fear said, you could end it, just drive into the tree. Like you
Mm.
literally, and I heard, oh, it gives me chills. My deeper, wiser, soul self said, if you go to a meeting, and I had just gotten a list of the different meetings, your whole life will change. Just go to this one meeting. It's all you have to do. And
Mhm.
so I don't even remember driving the car. I didn't know where a lot of churches have these 12-step meetings. I went to this
Mhm.
church. I was like horrified. I hated it. They had a business meeting, so no one talked to me after. I was bawling. And one woman ran out and she's like, I just wanted to connect with you. I saw you're here and I want to give you my number. You're not alone. And this is 22 years ago. This was the probably most profound night. It changed the whole trajectory of my life. The work of in that it's spiritual inner work led to a lot of deep, deep excavation, inner work therapy. And I would say, that pivotal moment of do I drive into the tree? Do I go to a meeting? And that was the beginning of listening to my voice and realizing something else is with me, going on in me as me, that is
Mm.
loving and greater than myself. And that was
Mhm.
the pivotal moment. So very, very tough time. And there's a lot more to say. And, ended up in a divorce couple, about 7, 8 years later.
Mhm.
Um, and that was another really horrendously gut-wrenching time. Um,
Mm.
but that beginning of, realizing really what it was disintegrating shame and
Mm.
saying, you know what, I have this diseased thinking and weighing and being
Mm.
with food, but that is not me. I have this, addictive behavior, but that is not the essence of me, and that can
Mhm.
heal, that can change. Um, and I am going to vow to myself to trust myself and love myself. And I really think of it as just beginning of a self, journey to greater self love in a way that you can't give to others if you don't have it for yourself. So
Mhm.
it just started that, and it definitely led to another U-turn, as I said, but definitely. Yeah, I can still feel it viscerally, like that it was like clammy hands, like I really considered
Mm.
not wanting to leave anymore. There's my thumbs up bubble.
I love how the real reactions were like, "Hey."
Yeah.
Yeah, Angelica is in the chat letting us know that she totally resonates. Late bloomer in school. We use sugar and food as a substitute and like emotional suppressing because it's completely socially acceptable for us to use food to manipulate our emotions in a way that we can't get away with alcohol or sex or I think for men the equivalent is like workaholism, but like this instinctual like I just don't want to face the numbness, like I don't want to acknowledge the pain. So how do we activate our bodies. Like our bodies are really great at creating drugs for us. Like we are our own personal drug dealers. And we can create the equivalent of heroin or marijuana or like cocaine. Like by putting ourselves into certain situations, we are activating our pituitary gland and all of those different glands that are like, oh, clearly we need help. Let's fix this situation. And they just flood our bodies with feel good meds. And that's really great when we're in survival situations and we need feel good meds. But if it's because we don't have this inner resource library and tools for us to raw and vulnerably look at what's going on and deal with it and say, yes, I am absolutely capable to look the fact, like acknowledge the fact that I am in a state of fear and self-loathing. And now I know how to get out of it. Right. And that's, I mean, this is my whole mission, right? How do we end emotional suffering? So making sure that people have practical tools that they can use to increase their awareness and then adjust it. So I know that you and I are on the same page with this. So USU is kind of your focus and your methodology, but I would love for you to unpack and maybe we can go into like some practical things of if you have if you want to increase your awareness, if you think that there might be things that you're burying or suppressing or avoiding and pushing into the blind zones, like how do you even just start this process of dragging things out of the shadows with courage and wrestling them in the light, you know?
So I love that question. And if it's okay, I'll share the part two challenge because it moves right
Yeah,
into it beautifully. Because I'm like,
let's
oh,
do it.
this is, you're talking about the body and the wisdom of the body and the fact that we can create our own medicine, basically feel good hormones and
Mhm,
dopamine and all of that. And so fast forward, I kind of entered this contracted journey with myself, and I decided I am not going to abandon myself anymore.
mhm,
So number one is making that choice, that decision. I'm
mhm.
going to be with me. I'm going to be with those feelings,
Mm,
emotions. This is where I think having support is crucial, whether,
oh,
it's like in the 12-step world with a sponsor or it's a coach or it's a therapist or all of it, which I've had all.
right.
I started to really be with those feelings. And I think what happened, I had pushed down a lot of deeper knowing, intuition, and I
Mhm,
was not the best timing, but often when the divine when there's a greater awareness happening, I realized I had two kids under the age of 3. My son was about,
mm,
6 months, and my daughter, yes, she was, because they're 16 months apart, so she was just about 2-ish, if I could do the math
mhm,
quickly. And I'd done so much excavation and sitting with and being with myself and those emotions and giving space and light to them. And
mhm,
I started to see what happens is our vision, our vision, our perspective, our perception, which is really the lens we're using. As you start to do this kind of work, I just started to see myself and life differently. And I realized,
mm,
oh my God, I'm in a marriage, really good person, but it is not me being
mm,
it's me. I'm not speaking. It just don't feel like I have a voice. And what was so interesting when I
mhm,
finally confronted this, it was so gut wrenching. It was the darkest moment of my life because it's a good person and there's a big family
mhm,
attached, kids. But my inner guidance was like, this does not work for you. It just
mm,
for a lot of different reasons. This
mhm,
contract, this relationship. And right after we did separate, as graciously, consciously uncoupled, as graciously as I knew how, I found myself passed out in a Target in Florida soon after. Come to find out, diagnosed at the time with like pituitary thyroid major issues. Um,
mm,
Underactive, but like it was really problematic at that time. I've
mhm,
been since healing it. And what is that connected to? And this is where
mhm.
I think we pay attention to our body. The
Yeah.
throat, your different energy centers, your throat chakra is about
Mhm,
speaking up and speaking your truth. Your
mm,
pituitary, first of all, the stress response is the Yeah, the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals. So
Mhm.
everything to do with stress, to do with speaking your voice, to
Mm.
regulating your body had
Yeah.
gone offline for me. And so paying attention, what is your
Yeah.
body telling you, your energy? I don't think it's random. If something is happening, ask
It's so
lovingly.
funny, I just mentioned, like, I have my ear infection and my jaw is frozen. I'm, like, suddenly keenly aware, like, "What am I not listening to? What am I not saying?" Like, I'm having, like, this, like, immediate moment of, like, "Oh, I don't know that I've done my own somatic check-in work right now." Like, this is really convicting.
Yeah, yes, and it's like from curiosity, which we talk a lot about with coaching, but you
Mhm,
come from, "Don't judge it." This was really hard for me. I was like,
mhm.
"What the F is going on?" But I realized, and I do think, our body, there's the great book, The Body Keeps the Score by,
Oh, yeah.
Russell Vandercook, yeah.
Mhm,
There's so much information. So for me, using food and then taking away, different than alcohol, you have to eat 3 times a day. Most people do.
mhm,
I don't do that today. I mean, I eat and I don't use food that
mhm,
way. And so what is left is being with yourself, is being
mhm,
compassionate and kind and giving yourself space and grace. And
mhm,
my thyroid, this experience, because it's been now about 12 years. It's I'm doing great, and it's a healing journey. I mean, I
mhm,
everything I shifted my whole life to support giving the time and energy to heal that, and
mhm,
knowing that that's why I do what I do. I speak up, whether it's a podcast here. For me, the medicine is not just I mean, I do take medicine. It's also,
mhm,
so if you're dealing with a thyroid condition, I would look at, what are you not speaking up about? Where is your truth that you're hiding or stuffing
mm.
down, and how can you share it? Because that for me is part of my medicine.
Yeah.
So paying attention to your body, pay attention to your energy, pay attention. Do not, we live in the society mainly head up, neck up. And
Mm.
we got to make that, it's 18 inches, right? From your brain to your heart.
Yeah.
So it's going down and doing that little travel. It's the most important trip you can take, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful way to put it. And I think it's so funny because it sounds so easy once you've started this practice. But I remember the first time I was working with like an access bars healer, and she's like, "Well, where are you feeling that in your body?" And I just like looked at her in the Zoom and I'm like, I literally have no idea what you're asking me. Like I had just been so out of touch with
Yeah.
my physicality that like the question didn't even make sense to me. It was like, I literally don't know what you mean. And she's like, "Well, I want you to just check in with your body and like what do you feel?" I'm like sitting there for like an uncomfortable amount of seconds, like, I don't I don't feel anything. She's like, "Okay, let's take this one at a time." And she had to like walk me through, okay, like focus on your head. Is your head hot? Is it cold? Is it tight? Is it loose? And she had to like teach me the vocabulary to even start thinking about this physical experience. And I was just like, how is I mean, like, I'm a pretty intelligent person, but like I had never even thought about using my body as like a way to calibrate my internal state, like, that didn't even compute. And so, yeah, I would say the first I love that is pay attention to your body because you have symptoms and you assume that it's like an external thing. Like, literally until this moment, I was just like, "Oh, yeah, I caught a germ and I've been going through illness." And now I'm like, "Oh, shnikes." Like, why did you select this germ, right? So if you think about it as like everything is intentional, there's infinite intelligence, like your body's wisdom is communicated with universal intelligence or whatever you're calling these soul, God, creature interactions things, right? There's an ongoing dialogue that's happening. And for you, for all of us, most of this is this little bit that we are conscious of is like there's like, "You're only using 10% of your brain." I'm like, I'm not even sure like that consciousness is 1% of what's really going on in this exchange of information. And now it's just like thinking through like, yeah, crown chakra, third eye, throat chakra, heart. Like when I learned about the 7 chakras and that each one has its own significance, it's sort of like, well, great. So I got this germ, but why did I leave that particular door open? right? Why was it that my throat or my ear were vulnerable right now because I wasn't paying attention to that energy wheel? Like, so it's just a fascinating way to start checking in and say, like, I had chronic hip pain in my right hip for years. And I was like, I tried getting rid of gluten. I tried steroids treatments, and I like tried acupuncture. Like I tried everything physical. And then we got on the road and life was really good. And it just went away on its own. And then I came back and we had a financial crisis. And all of a sudden my hip pain came back. And I like talked to somebody who knows something about this. And they're like, oh, yeah, your right hip would be your masculine security energy. So for you, it was you're worried about money and that's manifesting as hip pain. And I was like, fuck, like, like, could you have told me this sooner? Like, I could have healed myself a long time ago.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's you don't really realize how powerful this somatic awareness can be until you start utilizing it. And the one that was helpful for me was Louise Hay's book, like You Heal Your Body. I don't know. I'll have to look up the title and put it in the notes. That's the one, right? So she was the first one that I read it, and she was like, this is what this means, and that's what that means. And I was like, my mind was just completely blown. Like, I can actually trust my body to give me insights into what's going on in my psychology. Like, now I'm so fascinated with this. I want to study it for the rest of my life. So it's great. Okay, so let's go into Life Designer Coach Academy, because that's what I went through. And I know that there are some amazing opportunities that you are helping people to not only master these tools for themselves, but also do this work for others in the world. And like, that's what I'm about, is like, how do we get more of this out into the world? How do we like spread this contagion and make other people really infectious so that we can send them out and they can keep spreading this healing, you know? So talk through a little bit, like, what have you created in your community and why is this so important? And who is the right fit if people wanted to come and work with you?
Yeah. I love that you just brought in Louise. Hey, I look through that book all the time. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's synchronicity. We're right in the right
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
same energy line. You
Yep.
know, I'll say that one of the most powerful tools that helped me navigate a lot of shift in my life was working with a coach. It was about 15 years
Mhm.
ago, and
Yeah.
I fell in love with this work. I know you have as well, and so many people have. It's actually blossomed so much, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. You know, I did a degree in it. I got a master's degree. I still teach at Georgetown University in their health and wellness coaching. With the Life Designer Coach Academy, the thing that I feel the reason I was guided to do it is not only I am, you learn the coaching framework and the tools and the competencies, but we also bring in all of what we're talking about: heart math, heart wisdom and intelligence, the chakras, your energy, muscle testing, intuition,
Mhm.
mindfulness, mindset, as well as positive psychology. All of these, what I think have been thought of as like fringe, kind
Mhm.
of not as important. They're not as, intellectually backed. So not true. First of all,
Mhm.
today, now knowing, look at quantum physics work and research, we're all energy. It
Oh, yeah.
makes sense that, like, that is actually something we talk about. Like, if you were being coached, Caitlin, it might be like you did to yourself, which is the beauty is you
Mhm.
use coaching. You said, what is my ear? What is happening? What is this
Mhm.
happening? What's going on with my ear? Where am I not listening? What do I
Right.
need to listen to more of? So anyhow,
Mhm.
all of it is important. And with coaching, this is what I would say with who it's for. I mean, this is just so funny to me because now we're about to do my 11th cohort. Okay, and right now, this will give you an idea.
I
I
was
have
number 1, by the
you were
way, just
number
very
one.
proud of being one of the immortals.
You were number one. I know. I love number one. It's so fun. Oh my god, I love this
Mm.
work. Well, we've gotten. I mean, real estate agents, accountants, lawyers, therapists. I
Mhm.
have many coaches who are like, I learned coaching, but I want to refine my skills, or I
Mhm.
kind of learn more the way of giving advice versus I teach in
Mhm.
a very different way, which is the power lies within the other person, the client. You are helping them
Mm.
to unlock their inner power. It's an empowering model.
Yeah.
And you will learn how to be the best listener, to ask incredible questions. All of the skills translate to everything else, whether you want to
Oh,
start a
yeah.
show, a podcast, whatever. But I always say, if you're somebody who feels like you're wearing a sign that is saying, like, come talk to me, come, like, share your shit with me, excuse my language, you probably, like, if you're just somebody who kind of people come to and you are like, yeah, I don't know what is going on, but I feel like I'm literally, I used to say this, I feel like I'm wearing a sign that's like, if you want to chat, you have something going on, you want to go to the deep end of the pool right away, I'm right here. So
Mm,
that's usually an indication, like, people are comfortable, they trust you, they feel like they want to share with you.
mhm,
That would be a good reason. The other thing I'd say is, don't pay attention to the labels. Don't label yourself. Even if you're in a left brain position, like a
mhm,
lawyer or a tax accountant. You remember Jen from our first cohort,
mhm.
who is now, she left her CPA job and she's coaching around self-worth and net worth. And now
Amazing.
does a little bit of consulting with her CPA background. But
Mhm,
I would say, like, if this is something calling to you, because it has grown so much, and I think if there's a reason, Caitlin, I this work works, especially
mhm,
when you have been trained and you practice and you have some mastery and are clear on the setting up a session and what that looks like and how to help somebody. It's life-changing. It's based on
mhm.
transformation. It's based
Yeah.
on helping someone achieve their goal, their dream, and it's based on helping that person to restore integrity with themselves and love themselves and
Mhm,
feel empowered. I am all for that. That's why I love this work so much.
mhm.
It's putting the power back in each person's hand, that I'm not the guru of you ever. I'm
Mm.
only, not even really, barely the guru of myself. I'm just, that's what I'm learning. So, yeah.
Love it. Somebody's like, "Do you like the book, The Immortals?" And I was like, "No, I'm one of the immortals of the first cohort." That was funny. Well, I wanna open it up for I see that some of you guys are listening actively in real time. If you guys wanna either put a comment in the social media, or if you're inside of our, kind of webinar format, if you have a question for Julie, I'd love to open it up for questions. So we love just doing real-time coaching. If there's a situation you wanna talk through, tell us what's going on in your life and we can work through it. um, I think for me, I want to share the story that you've coached me personally through while we wait for questions. But
I remember.
i I remember, because it's so funny, because we started this whole podcast with um, growing up in Boston and that feeling of not worthy, not good enough, and that, for me, that not enoughness was always my thing. Like, I can't be strong enough, smart enough. Like, no matter how hard I try to keep all of these balls in the air, I'm not good enough. Um, which is really helpful as far as neuroses go. It makes you a really effective high achiever. Like, I just kept checking off boxes. Like, degrees, yes, please. Books, written, right? Like, businesses started. Like, kids, born. Like, I was really good at, like, building this perfect life that I envisioned for myself. But it was all driven by this: I'll never be enough, I will never do enough. And there's so many reasons that comes for that. um but we were on this call and you were coaching me through it, and the you said it's I love how you said it. You're finding their power and you're pulling their power out. It wasn't consulting. It wasn't like you were telling me what the solution was. You were just allowing us to come to, like, check in with our inner guidance system and come up with our truths. And so the it for me, the phrase that ended up breaking that pattern of inadequacy and not enoughness that we co-created together was, I am just the vessel, right? Like, I didn't have to be good enough, smart enough. Like, it was okay that I felt empty. Like, that's sort of the nature of vessels. That's their job, is to stay empty so that we can fill them, so that they can be poured out again, right? And I just started viewing myself as this kind of birthing canal for the divine, of like, oh yeah, it's not my job to, like, be the one who comes up with the solutions or create the toolkits, or like I didn't have to be anything. I didn't have to do anything. My job was just to stay open and listen and allow that magnificent, infinite power, love, creativity, peace to just flow through me into the world. And I'm not going to say I've mastered this, but like that and the surrendered experiment
Mm.
by Alan. I'm sorry,
Michael
my
Singer.
no,
Michael
Michael
Singer.
Singer. Thank you. Today's brain is not great for pulling out details, but the surrender experiment and that epiphany and the work that we did in that certification program, those things like shifted my fundamental way of how I do life. That I moved from primary yang masculine energy, drive, 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 do, achieve, 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 into primarily and I identifiably, this is how I identify, as yin energy, the divine feminine, like rest, being, like receiving pleasure as opposed to growth, like, and it just sort of reset my whole paradigm for how I do and think about life and the universe. And yeah, I'm still lovingly reaping the rewards of that many years later. I'm so grateful that I got to have that experience. I'm not seeing questions come through. So what I want to do is give people the link to so I have the one for your free toolkit, and then I don't know if you were able to get me the Coach Academy one, but if you want to dig that up, let me put this one on the screen. Just go to juliereisler.com. Reisler is, if you're listening, is R-E, let me just spell the whole thing. Julie, Julie, Reisler, REISLER.com, and then /toolset. So you can get your tool set, and then we're going to see if we can get you some information about the Coach Academy as well. But in the meantime, while you're looking for that, I think going back to my original question is like, how do we just start this? And you said, listen to your body. You said, pay attention to your energy. And that's like the second level of like, wait a second, what is energy? For me, I think of that as emotions, and I'd love for you to push back on me if you think of it as differently. But yeah, kind of paying attention to, do I feel heavy? Do I feel light? Do I feel blah? Do I feel excited? Right? Is this kind of what you were talking about with energy? And
Yeah, and this is what I love. Thank you for sharing also I had a similar experience when you were asked, how do you feel in your body? And you're like, you're speaking literally a different language. Like it's Japanese. I have no idea. What
Mhm.
happened is when we were little, very little, I mean, this was like, we have the batteries included. I mean, we
Mm,
gotta remember we're also complex beings, right? We're made of energy. We live in an energetic field, a universe that is made of energy. So this is something that can take a little time, but here's the cool thing. This is also the reason I love coaching. It's a similar reason is our brain as a serial processor. The minute you ask it a question, it's going to look for an answer.
mhm,
So, you saying to yourself, where do I feel that? Where is that in my body? Is it, oh, interesting. You might even have someone say, is it warm? Is there a tingling? Is there a
mm,
greater sense of expansion when you say that? Or do you feel like you want to drop down into fetal position? So you
mm,
want to, the minute you ask yourself these new questions, your brain is wired to look for new answers. So you can actually
yeah,
do this yourself. It's really powerful. Um,
mhm.
I would notice one of the things that I can teach it here. It's a really simple
Yeah, let's do
tool.
it.
Yeah, it's an intuitive muscle testing. It's one of the
Ooh,
easiest ways to do this is first of all, we know this. I could go in for a long time why we know this with our body, with our eyes, our bodies don't lie.
mm,
So start by you become like a human pendulum. Ask yourself a question,
mhm.
very direct, succinct question. So it could even be one, we could do one with you, for example. Is there a
Sure.
question?
Because I have never gotten muscle testing to work for me. So this is perfect. Let's do
Yeah.
this.
So if you can stand, if you're not and you're sitting, then that's fine.
Yeah. Otherwise
Just
you'll just see my torso.
yeah, 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 yeah. So we're going to ask: is there a distinct question to ask you that you want to ask?
Yeah, okay. And it's only yes or no. Yes. Okay. Can I, well, this, so when I was being taught pendulum, you brought it up.
Yeah.
I was taught that the first thing you should ask the pendulum is, what does yes look like? So maybe we should start with, what does yes feel like? Can we
Yes.
start there?
Most, just to level set,
Yeah.
most bodies, what we typically just like innately, typically you lean in. You know, when you're around somebody and you love
Hmm.
listening or being part of the conversation, we tend to lean in. We tend to
Hmm.
like want to get closer. Think of even
Yeah.
like your significant other, right? Hopefully you
Hmm.
still feel like, I want to be like close, close, close. When you're around someone whose energy you're like, what do we do? This is a natural response. We pull away.
Okay.
So we could do the yes and no. My sense is what I've seen is like pretty much 100% of the time, it's that leaning forward
Okay. So
is
it's
like,
towards or away is more. It's not yes or no. It's, am I moving towards this or am I moving away from this? Okay.
I
I
think
like that.
I think it's easier. You don't have to
Mhm.
remember, although I love pendulums. It's just, am I leaning in? So I would even say,
Mm.
when I talk to someone, if they're thinking of becoming a coach or whatever they're thinking of doing or a goal, I'm like, let's ask your body,
Yeah.
are
So I'm going to visit a client's event and it's either going to be Friday or Saturday. And I haven't decided. So we can ask, like, should I go up on Friday or should I go up on Saturday? Is that okay?
so is it in your highest good to
Okay.
go on Friday?
Okay. Is it so all right. So that's the question that we're going to pose. Is it my highest good to go on Friday? And just leave it at that. So it's not Friday or Saturday, it's Friday. Lean
Do one
in,
at
lean
a
out.
time. Let's do one at a
One at
time.
a time.
Very simple. Yeah.
Okay.
So now I
And
will
then
tell
what
you,
do I do?
I can
Yeah.
feel you. I'm not going to give the answer because I want you to have it, but I can feel already for you with that answer.
Oh.
And then
Whoa.
that's
Okay. This
that's another that's a next level. Like I'm telling you, empath intuitive. Like I can feel you and what the answer is, but I would want you to get it for yourself. So
okay.
let's ask. You can even close your eyes. Is it in your highest good to go to this client event on Friday?
Is it in my highest? Okay. So next Friday. Mm-hmm.
Just notice, are you kind of leaning it away or are you leaning forward with that?
I feel like I'm leaning forward.
Okay. And then we're going to ask yourself, is it in my highest good to go to this event on Saturday?
Now, won't my body be confused? Because I could go both days. Like it's not an either or. I could spend the night. Like,
Is it
or
better for me to go? So you could ask it that way. Is it better for me to go
is
on
it better for me
Saturday?
to leave on Saturday? Okay.
Yeah.
Is it better for me to leave on Saturday? Nope. Slightly more leaning back.
There you go.
Okay.
There's your answer. So you didn't have to ask the second. I do like to ask if it's something like that and you get the
To confirm.
clarity.
Huh. Okay, so now this is where I'm still new to this whole magic realm. Like the first time
Yeah.
I did pendulums, I was like, there were so many expletives. I was like, I can't wrap my head around the fact that this little crystal thing is
Yeah.
doing a completely different spin and then stopping itself and staying
Yeah.
perfectly still and then switching directions and doing a completely opposite spin.
Yes.
It was completely mind-blowing. It was like I was literally watching somebody work magic, except it was my own hand. And I was like, I have no way to explain this. So this is really helpful to have my just incremental lean in or lean out human pendulumness. I love this. And I'm always like, my rational brain is like, well, how do you know? Right? This external, this need for external validation.
Yeah.
So I am just curious. Is that what you felt when you're like, yeah, I have a reading for you? Like, does that
So
line up?
what I felt, yes, and I'll tell you what I heard and I
Please.
felt and sensed for you. What I sensed is that either would be okay, but what I
Mhm.
heard is you need to get enough rest before you go.
Ah,
So
that's fair.
I heard honestly in this case, if you do not have enough rest, you should be going Saturday. If you can fill your tank with rest, then Thursday is fine.
Okay, that's good
Or
to know.
Friday, Saturday, whichever the you
Mm.
need. So the way it showed up for me was it could be a yes and that now in some
Mm.
cases it's this is not good. Like you probably could go to either one, but you got a strong sense that it's to go Friday, not
Mhm.
Saturday.
Okay.
My
Well,
sense
strong
is
sense is it's like half a millimeter. Like, this is the crazy thing is like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to get better at listening more sensitively, right? Speaking of ears, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
paying attention to that. And to your
Track it.
sense. Okay.
This is
I like
where
that.
you build. This is where, for those of my friends, and I'm in there, that have the, like, I was trained to, like, have everything organized and tracked. And I mean, it's just, that left brain. I'm oversimplifying. Obviously, we're more than just left
Mhm.
and right brain, but
Right.
to have it, keep the evidence, like, start to notice, okay, I listened, what happened? Okay, I didn't listen, what
Mm,
happened? I didn't follow that. Like, start to just keep looking your past. When did you have a leaning in or away? I mean, I've seen some major things in my life happen. The
mhm,
difference of leaning in and following that and feeling that no and doing it anyhow, uh,
mm,
you will start to see it for yourself. And then that there's nothing that beats that, because then you realize, I'm not even gonna question it. I may not understand the invisible world. There's an invisible
mm.
world of energy and life force, and
Yes.
the Tao Te Ching calls it the way. We can
Yep.
call it whatever you want to call it. There's a supportive, life-giving, ever, infinite source and power that is moving through you as a creator. So, I think part of even this conversation, it's like remembering we all have access to that. We all have access
Mhm,
in our bodies. I think of it as like a human pendulum, like a tower,
mhm,
a radio tower. So it
mhm,
actually makes a lot of sense when you talking about the somatic work, and when you start to look at, your heart, the electromagnetic field around us and in
mhm.
our heart and our body. We're just tuning into that. It's just we were not taught this in kindergarten. I wish we were,
No.
but maybe someday. It's a dream of mine. Maybe someday.
Trust your body. I love it.
Trust it.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. This has been amazing, and I'm so grateful. And I feel like we gave them some really practical ways that they can just start on this journey if they're interested. I did put at the bottom the Life Designer Coach Academy. It's the juliereisler.com address that I gave you before, but it's /certification. So go check it out, see if a certification is the right fit for you, whether you want to be a professional coach or not. And I think that's important. It's like, even if you just want this tool set for yourself and to do it with your friends and your family because you want to increase your awareness and have a greater emotional vocabulary, and you want to be able to lead by empowering others to find their truth, like, do it for yourself, even if this isn't a professional goal of yours. So this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate you, and we will talk soon.
Thank you.